Moses abused children, and this is true, and you can kind of find this out if you read through specifically the book of Numbers, right? Specifically, you can kind of go and research about Numbers 31:18. In this verse, Moses allows the Israelites to, essentially abduct child war brides, right? But it also is quite kind of a lot more worse than just that. In this verse, in Numbers 31:18, Moses also kind of allows the Israelites to slaughter, again, boys, small boys, I would presume. Essentially, he allows the Israelites to abuse children, and this is kind of very shocking, because if you've kind of I guess been on the internet a lot, right? You would kind of hear accusations that Muhammad was a pedophile, right? You would hear this type of accusation that Muhammad was a pedophile because of his engagement with Aisha when she was like not exactly old, because she was like kind of supposedly, according to like a lot of scholars, the age of Aisha when she was engaged to Muhammad was like kind of 9, or it was like extremely young. So therefore Muhammad is a pedophile and he abused children, and that's why you shouldn't respect him. But this is kind of, there's a lot of doubt about this, right? So who knows what age Aisha actually was, right? And we know that Muhammad, he didn't just kind of when he was getting engaged to Aisha, he actually kind of hold it off for a few years to wait until she was mature and stuff, until she was mature enough to kind of handle anything more intimate and sensual and etc. Right? So, this type of accusation that Muhammad was just some kind of pervert, like essentially a pedophile, is kind of ridiculous, right? Or first of all, what is the definition of a pedophile? A pedophile is someone that has an exclusive attraction, to young children, right? Exclusive, right? That's what makes a pedophile, someone that can only get off by looking at like small children, right? Essentially, right? He cannot be attracted to any older people that are like developed, right? Older men and women, etc. Right? A pedophile is someone that's only attracted to young children. This is the definition of a pedophile, right? Muhammad, his first wife Khadija was like around his own age when they got engaged, and they were starting to get together and stuff, right? So Muhammad cannot be a pedophile, right? Because most of his marriages involved women that were older than him or around his age, right? Aisha was just kind of an exception. I kind of really doubt that she was as young as as a lot of Islamic scholars like to suggest she was. She was probably around her teen years, in my opinion. But this is all speculation, right? So it's all speculation, right? Aisha's age is kind of all speculation, but we do know, right, in the hadiths that Muhammad he didn't just immediately, start to get intimate with Aisha, right? He kind of waited until she was mature enough to handle anything more intimate. So, this kind of put to rest this type of accusation that Muhammad was a pedophile, right? Because a pedophile is someone that's only attracted to small children, but most of Muhammad's wives are kind of older than he was or around his age. So, Muhammad cannot be a pedophile, according to this dictionary definition of what a pedophile is, right? But to bring it back to Moses, right? Because, Moses literally abused small children. Right? He allowed the Israelites to kill small boys, and he allowed the Israelites to abduct child war brides. But is Moses a pedophile, right? Because, when child abuse is mentioned, right, people always talk about, Muhammad was a pedophile. He got engaged to Aisha when she was very young. Yeah, but okay, but what about Moses? Moses literally allowed the Israelites to abduct child war brides. He allowed the Israelites to kill small boys. He literally abused children, right? Moses was even worse than Muhammad in regards to like child abuse, right? Because Moses told the Israelites to abduct child war brides, right? Also to kill small children. He was like kind of a warlord, right? Moses was commanding an army and going around, attacking people and conquering lands. He was kind of like a warlord, right? People always kind of focus on Muhammad being violent. Moses and the other biblical prophets were just as violent, and even actually in a lot of cases even worse than Muhammad, right? Because Moses, again in Numbers 31:18, allowed the Israelites to abduct child war brides. He also allowed the Israelites to kind of kill boys, small boys, etc., and to plunder various different people and to kind of ruin their lands, etc., and steal their resources. Moses literally was a kind of a warlord, right? But the focus is always on Muhammad, and this is extremely ridiculous, right? Because again, focuses on Muhammad in regards to child abuse, in regards to violence. If you kind of carefully read through the Old Testament, right, you'd realize that a lot of the biblical prophets were extremely violent individuals, right? They were kind of, in many respects, in regards to violence, they were worse than Muhammad, right? Because in Numbers 31:18, Moses, I'm not even joking, literally allows the Israelites to abduct child war brides, right? He allows the Israelites to kind of kill small boys. He allows them to plunder, the land that's near them and stuff. This is just kind of insane, right? And of course, many Christians, right? Christians, not just Christians, because when we're discussing Moses, this also kind of relates to Judaism, right? Jewish people as well. They kind of ignore a lot of this, right? They don't really focus on how Moses was kind of extremely violent, right? He allowed the Israelites to abduct child war brides, according to the Old Testament, according to the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, because again, Moses is important in Judaism as well, not just in Christianity, right? Most Christians and Jewish people, they kind of ignore how violent Moses was, right? Again, in Numbers 31:18, he allowed the Israelites to abduct child war brides. That's shocking. He also allowed them to kill small boys and plunder the land near them and stuff. This is just shocking, right? This is like what a warlord is, right? People always talk about Muhammad was like a warlord. He was a violent psychopath. He's not a true prophet, right? Because he was engaged to a small girl, so he's a pedophile, so he's not a true prophet. But Moses, I swear, Moses in Numbers 31:18 allowed the Israelites again to abduct child war brides. He allowed the Israelites to slaughter small boys and essentially to abuse children, right? Moses let the Israelites abuse children, right? This is in the Old Testament, it's in the Hebrew Bible, it's in the Tanakh, it's in Numbers 31:18, in the book of Numbers. This is just kind of insane that so many different Christians and also Jewish people, right? Because Moses is important in Judaism as well, right? Not just in Christianity, right? And also, the Old Testament is the Hebrew Bible, is the Tanakh, so this also affects Judaism, right? Moses was not someone you could kind of, I don't know, I guess, kind of respect according to our modern 21st century moral standards, right? He allowed the Israelites to abuse children. Right? He let the Israelites abduct child war brides. He let the Israelites kill small boys. He allowed them to plunder the land near them and stuff. And of course, many Christians and Jewish people, they don't really care about this, right? They just kind of sweep it under the rug, right? They just kind of focus on other parts of the Bible, right? Of course, I feel like this is kind of ridiculous, right? Because, again, they always critique Muhammad for being like some type of violent psychopath, essentially for being like some type of warlord individual, right? Someone that was just kind of evil, essentially, right? He was a false prophet, right? He was a pedophile, so he's not someone you should respect, right? But Moses, man, in Numbers 31:18, he kind of allowed the Israelites to abduct child war brides. He also let the Israelites kill small boys. I'm actually reading it straight from the text. So now kill all the boys as well as every woman who has had relations with a man, but spare for yourselves every girl who has never had relations with a man. Girl, right? This is in Numbers 31:18. This is kind of insane, right? Moses, if he was like alive today, he would kind of be arrested, right? He would be kind of treated as some type of I don't know, some type of psychopathic individual, right? He wouldn't be respected, right? He'll probably be in jail if he was alive today, because he allowed the Israelites to abuse small children, to abduct child war brides, right? And he also allowed the Israelites to slaughter small boys and stuff, from his enemies and stuff. And this is just kind of insane. If Moses was alive today, he would kind of be put in jail. He wouldn't be just freely walking around, right, preaching from the Torah or the Hebrew Bible or from the Old Testament, etc., right, he would be in jail. But a lot of Christians and of course also Jewish people, right, because Moses is super important in not just in Christianity but also in Judaism, right. Again, in Numbers 31:18, he allowed the Israelites to abduct child war brides, to slay small boys, essentially to abuse children, right? No one talks about this, right? The focus is always on Muhammad being a pedophile, how he was like kind of a warlord, and he was extremely violent. He was essentially a psychopath, right? And that's why you should not really trust Muhammad, right? He was a false prophet, right? Because he engaged to Aisha when she was very young and stuff. So he's a false prophet. But Moses, Moses isn't like just a minor prophet. Moses is like, he's like a patriarch, right? He's like one of the most defining prophets in the Bible. But in Numbers 31:18, he allowed the Israelites to abduct the child war brides. He also allowed and even commanded the Israelites to slaughter small boys and children, and essentially to abuse children as well, right? He was kind of not really decent. He was actually even worse than Muhammad, right? Of course, no one really kind of even reads through the Bible properly, right? So, this is why I have to kind of make a video about this, right? Because so many people out there have a lot of misconceptions, right, about the Bible, about who the biblical prophets actually were, right? A lot of false ideas about them, wrong ideas about them, and stuff. A lot of misconceptions that need to be cleared away, right? But again, in Numbers 31:18, Moses allowed the Israelites to abduct child war brides. He allowed the Israelites to slaughter small boys. He literally allowed the Israelites to abuse small children. This is shocking, right? Very shocking. But so many different Christians and Jewish people, they don't really care, right? They just kind of ignore it, just kind of go on with their lives. They don't even really read their religious texts properly, right? That's why that's why they're still ignorant about this, right? How the Bible is just completely atrocious, I swear. If anyone's read through the Bible thoroughly and more than one time, right, completely as well, right? If you read through from Genesis to Revelations all the way, right, completely, you would kind of renounce the Christian religion, right? You wouldn't be a Christian, right? You wouldn't believe in Christianity anymore, right? Even Judaism, because the Old Testament is the Hebrew Bible, right? It's the Tanakh. You would renounce these religions, right? If you properly studied the entire Bible carefully, right? You read through everything thoroughly and properly, right? Again, Numbers 31:18, Moses literally allows the Israelites to abduct small children, right? To abduct child war brides, to abuse and kill small boys and children. This is just shocking. But so many different Christians don't really even think about this, right? They don't think twice when they're reading the Bible. They're just gonna phase through and that's it. And they still remain Christian because they're ignorant and I would assume kind of stupid, right? Because how could you kind of read through the Bible and read through this specific verse, Numbers 31:18, and still continue being a Christian, or also a Jewish person, right? Because the Old Testament is the Hebrew Bible, it's the Tanakh. How could you, keep your faith in these religions, right? In these religions, Christianity and Judaism, right? How could you still believe in these religions? It's kind of because the biblical prophets did a lot of atrocious things, right? It's just kind of mind-blowing, right? It's just kind of shocking that a lot of Christians and again Jewish people, because the Old Testament is the Hebrew Bible, it's the Tanakh, right? They don't really read through their religious texts properly, right? They always kind of focus on Muhammad, right? In a lot of cases, right? They kind of like to pick on Muhammad, right? He was like a warlord, essentially. He was a pedophile because he was engaged to Aisha when she was very young, right? He was someone that's extremely psychopathic, someone that was like essentially a terrorist, right? That's why you should not respect him and stuff. But, Moses in Numbers 31:18, right? And allowed the Israelites to abduct child war brides. He also allowed the Israelites to slaughter small children, right? Small boys. Like, this is extremely clear, right? There's no room for interpretation here. You can kind of, research about Numbers 31:18 and you'll kind of be shocked at what it kind of says, right? What it claims and stuff like that. You should carefully read through that verse. I'd also like to kind of bring up like 2 Kings 2:4, right? Because in this verse, right, in the book of Kings, the biblical God, the Old Testament God, Yahweh Adonai, Jehovah Hashem, he sends bears to kill small children, right? It was for an extremely petty reason, as well as essentially, the prophet Elijah, he was walking somewhere, right? And some children came and kind of insulted him for being bald, and he kind of cried out to the biblical God, right? And what did the biblical God do? The biblical God sent bears to maul these small children to death, and this is literally inside of the Bible. It's inside of the Old Testament. It's inside of the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible as well. So you have to kind of, if you're a Christian or some Jewish person, you have to kind of really think about all of this very carefully, right? You have to re-examine your religious beliefs and stuff. You have to re-examine your faith. You would have to kind of, maybe give up your religion, right? Or your religion, if you're a Christian, right? Or if you're Jewish and you believe in Judaism, etc., you'd have to kind of reconsider these religions carefully and properly, right? After I've just presented to you and stuff, right? Because Moses was not someone you could respect, right? Because he allowed the Israelites, again in Numbers 31:18, to abduct child war brides, right? He allowed the Israelites to slaughter small children, especially small boys, right? This is explicitly mentioned, right? Again in Numbers 31:18. So, but a lot of Christians and Jewish people probably aren't even going to really consider anything I'm saying right now. They're probably just going to still stay ignorant and stuff. That's probably just how it is, right? They're probably just determined to be like that, I guess, right? That sucks, but it is what it is.